Good morning. It's now 8:24, so come a few minutes early, and that's okay. So it's a good thing. Let me sit here just a minute and see. Anybody is up and ready to join this chat. Okay, a couple of people. It's 8:25. So it's probably a good 30 minutes, and yeah, 30-minute chat this morning. Good morning. I said I don't want to be rude. I'm going to wait a few minutes and let those that intended to join. It is only 8:26, so give it a minute. Those early risers, I know it's only 7 West Coast, so yeah. I do Mommy Maxwell, good morning. I want to say this is something that it had really been a long time coming. I have sprinkled bits and pieces of this throughout videos and things, but I I don't hear about it often, and I don't know if it's one of those things that people don't talk about, and it's not that I didn't want to, because you all know I talk about things that people don't talk about. Because in the end, I find out that people actually need the help. It's one of those questions that nobody asks because they're afraid, or they don't know how to help or get help. And that's just me. I will go there because I have experienced a lot of things and have knowledge about them. And so using IEP is I'm not a stranger at all. But it's some interesting things that I hear that give me pause when it comes to IEPs and the children. It's like, where did you get the information? Book lover, hi, love your channel. If I'm pretty, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's you. There's a, it's 8:29. It's a big misconception, really, about an IEP. When people hear IEP, they run. They don't, and it's a misconception, basically, and that's what causes the problem. And then there's a misconception about an IEP and homeschool children. Okay, so I've had both ends of the spectrum. Homeschool children are eligible for IEP. And IEPs are not bad, okay? That is parent ignorance. And I'm saying that kind of, I mean, you'll understand in a few minutes if you don't understand. Not to be, disrespectful or discredit you or anything, but that's what it is. Everybody has to learn. I had to learn. And after the first time, I knew. I went in, I did a lot of research, and I talked to a lot of people. And so I had a little leg up, and, working in public school, you get tips. So I was fortunate in that aspect. So you are trying to get your son an IEP. Why are you trying to get your son an IEP? If that's not too much information. I know everybody is different. There are different reasons why children need IEPs also. Some people think IEP, they relate IEP with special ed. That is a part of it. But special ed is not on the spectrum. It's a broad spectrum. It's not what it used to be. And that's the other part of it. They, parents think IEP, special ed, I don't want my kid in a special ed classroom, and my kid's not like those kids in that stigma wheelchair or, that type of thing. It's a stereotype. It's a straight stereotype, and that's not it at all. It's speech therapy. I'm glad you brought that up. I am so glad. Speech therapy. There are a lot of children in the homeschool arena. I know you all know this. I'm not the only one. I'm not going to point fingers or anything, but I have noticed, and it's sad, because these children 5 and above have terrible speech. Nobody's talking about my child is seeking therapy, and it's very noticeable, especially if that child is you're a vlogger and you're vlogging that, and it's like, why is that child not getting help? It's great that the child can do this and do that and do that, but that child needs speech therapy ASAP, and you know it. When a child is 2 years old, you can tell, a pediatrician can tell that that child needs speech therapy. Yes, they are barely learning to talk. However, you will notice a difference between 2 and 2.5. Really before that. But you'll notice a noticeable difference in that child's speech. And yes, speech delayed, this delayed, this delayed. But those are signs that you should have already noticed. Your pediatrician should have already noticed. And if you've waited that long, look how long you have stunted that child. So fast forward, they're, you're trying to teach them how to read. They have a speech problem. It could be a hearing problem. But you have waited because, they're just little. It doesn't matter. It does matter. It does matter. You can start a child at 1, a year and a half, really, on speech. So, you have to be awake and aware and pay attention to your children. And I don't buy into this, I'm homeschooling, they don't need speech. Yes, they do. Kids that are 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, you should fully be able to understand those children, and not just within the home. Everybody should be. Of course, you're going to be able to understand them, and probably you won't, but the family will, because they're used to hearing them. But if you put that child before anybody else and somebody saying, what did they say? What? you understand one word out of the 5 they said, that's a problem. So I'm just, somebody, I'm not the only one. There's somebody, like I said, it's a couple people, it's a couple of vloggers, but somebody made mention, they were like, why the little girl, what did she say? And they said, oh, I should have pointed out that, she has speech problems. And I'm like, yeah, because that makes you look bad. I don't care what you are doing, what you have to show, what you have to share, but it makes you look bad. It's like you're not even taking the time for that child. And whether they're home or not, they're going to have to go out into the world. They're not going to stay home forever. And if you continue to let that child go unassisted, you're failing that child. Let's see. Mommy Maxwell says, I saw your topic this morning. Came to be of assistance if you have any technical legal questions on my life. Special education teacher. Yes. Offer up. Full-time homeschool mom for 5 years. Yeah. Well, that's good because, like I said, it's a misnomer. My son is nonverbal. Yep, I've seen that a lot in people. I mean, they don't know how to get help. The help is too, I don't know. First of all, they don't know where to go. And what I don't understand is why the pediatrician is not directing, because that's the first source. Of all places, you have constant contact with a pediatrician, to get help. A pediatrician will refer you to any and everybody that you need, whether it's an ENT or it's a therapist or it's, whatever. They're going to refer you out. So rather than sitting and not doing anything, acknowledge that the child needs help and seek the help as soon as you can. A lot of times there is a long waiting list to, to be seen in places, and there's testing involved. So the longer you wait, you're just prolonging the situation. All right. So an IEP, individual education plan. Let's see if I can get that right. I do have some notes. These are some notes or some questions. You might want to get some paper and a pencil, and I'll go slow. And if somebody needs me to, if you don't go back, and you might have to rewatch this to get it down, but you can always email me or leave me a comment in the video. But the first thing you want to do is have paper and pen. There are always going to be questions that you have, and somebody can answer those questions. And so the topic, my child is is highly intelligent. His issues were behavior. And so after years and years and years of all sorts of things, because first it starts out as, okay, the child is this age and we need to not rush to do this. We have to see if it's just developmental, something that the child will grow out of. You don't want to do anything yet other than watch it normal, because you're checking to see if just the basic stuff, how's the home environment, any kind of upsets, major upsets, things like that. Okay, once you get past all of that, things still going on, okay, we need to look into this. And then you get your referrals out and you start checking this, that, and other, and all, testing that you need. And in the meantime, if the child is in school, which mine at the time he was in school. So, the teacher and the therapist and, everybody is taking notes. They're keeping notes. So, we have to take that into account when the child is outside the home. When the child is just in the home, you still need to be aware of what's going on and pay attention to what that child is doing. You know that certain things are not normal. Okay, like I said, whether the child is speaking, stuttering, the child is not speaking, doing odd things, you know that it's not normal. So eventually, because of the behavior, we got to the point of we need to do something with this child because it's causing disruption in school, disruption with everybody else. And, kids can always get sent to the office, sent to another classroom, suspended. What else do they have? Alternative school and things like that. And for a little guy or a little girl, that's a lot to have to go to an alternative program. But sometimes it comes to that. So, like I said, the school is going to do everything that they should. And if not, you should be in constant contact. Hey, what can we do? Because if the child comes and says, my teacher did XYZ, you're going to be right there. So in the same case, you should be there, present, not just when something happens. Stay in constant contact. So, on the table, okay, we need to look at this, get an IEP going. An IEP is to protect that child. Okay, children have rights, and an IEP is basically to protect that child's educational rights. Every child has the right to an education. So if you're not equipped or you're not in the place where you can bring that child home and educate them at home, then you have no choice than to keep that child in school. Even if you are at home, there are things that you may need from the school, like speech therapy. And if that child is under an IEP, you will get those things. Whereas you would have to outsource it, and it may take longer. So an IEP is kind of like a VIP pass in that sense. So the first thing that is, okay, you get this, you hear these IEP, what is that? What do I need to do? There has to be a meeting. And this meeting is going to be either during school or after school, nothing on the weekend, but it has to be coordinated. And since the meeting has to be coordinated, it's going to be a big deal. So there are going to be a lot of people in this meeting. There's going to be a district official. There's going to be a principal. If the principal is not available, there will be a vice principal. All of the teachers involved. There will be a special education teacher. There will be therapists, occupational, speech, a lot of people. There may be about 15 people in the room. What they're going to tell you, you have to come to the meeting. They will have, if you have to bring the child or your children, they'll have somewhere for them to go. But ideally, that's it. You can't, because it's a meeting. It's art. This is an art meeting. Um, they will tell you to bring anybody you want. And it's like, why bring anybody you want to that meeting? Okay? If you want to bring grandma to the meeting, bring grandma. Aunt Susie to the meeting, bring Aunt Susie. If you want to bring your pediatrician, your pastor, your child's mentor, your neighbor, your church members, bring them to the meeting. Why? It's because this meeting is a team of people that are going to work to help that child sustain what that academic level that they need to be on, get the help, the resources. It's just a bunch of people that are going to pool their ideas and get that child resources in the school, outside of school, in the community. Okay? So when I had to go to the meeting, my child had already had, we had outside the pediatrician, even though I knew that she was not going to be able to come, she was invited because we've had our pediatrician over 20 years. So that's the first person. Anytime I've dealt with anybody, I'm going to tell you all, I've dealt with everybody. I've talked about this. I've dealt with CPS, caseworkers, social workers, everybody. So she's always the first person I say, call her. She'll talk to them over the phone, give them whatever they need. So, who else? My child had a mentor. All of the social workers, all of the caseworkers. I had a parent coach. Even a previous teacher. You know, whoever you can get to come in and vouch for that child, because they want to get a feel for that child, especially if it's a new school. Let me say that every new school your child goes into, you need to go back and do another review. You start all over with the R because it's a new school. They cannot deny you that. Okay. So you have that meeting. ARD is hold on, let me make sure I get it right. I know it. Admission, review, and dismissal. Okay? That's what that meeting is called. You want to have notes. Questions. You want to have questions. Okay? So I'm going to read off. Good morning. I'm going to read off a couple of questions that I had written down, and I didn't know it was this many, but this looked like about 20, 30 questions. All right. And this is, like I said, this is it's old. This is what I had drew up initially, but my first question, and I didn't ask these in any particular order. First of all, I just sat down, listened. What happens is everybody comes into the meeting. Once the meeting is, everybody's got a decided time. Everybody can meet because, like I said, it's a lot of people. It's all coordinated. You come in, you sit down. Everybody it's a sign-in sheet. That's the first document. There are documents that you are signing. Everybody in that room and the district gets a copy of those documents. Okay? So you're going to sign the document saying that you're present at this meeting. Everybody's going to go around the room, introduce themselves, and say who they are to that child. That's the first thing that happens. The IEP itself, it sounds scary. It's just a plan. And the plan is not something that is designed by the school. It is, what am I trying to say? It's presented by the school, but it's something that the parent designs. It's a plan for the child that the parent calls the shots on. You don't have to agree to anything and sign on it if you know that that's not going to work for your child. And while you have your team of support and the school officials and things, your aunt may say, well, wait a minute, that he can't or she can't do that because this, that, and the other. I've observed this. And so you're all sitting there collaborating. Okay, well, what do you think will work better? That's why you need a team of people with you, not just yourself. If it has to be only you, that's fine. But somebody else, because you're in that meeting, you're in the hot seat, kind of. And if you've never been, you won't really understand. But somebody else on your side can say, hey, yeah, I can see that happening. This probably would be a better fit than this. So first question, how will the teachers accommodate my child's learning and behavior needs in the classroom? Okay. See, the first thing you think of, the special ed. Does the child have to be in a special ed classroom? No, they can remain in mainstream. What we did, like I said, it was for behavior. We did his behavior. Just he was getting distracted by other kids, so we would essentially what we came up with. He would come to school like about 5-10 minutes after the bell has rang and everybody's in class. Because a lot of the behavior was the interaction with the kids out before school started or after school. So we cut that right there. So everybody was already in class, so he didn't have time to cause any kind of distraction. About class, about 40-45 minutes. 20 minutes, 25 minutes into class, we would have him pulled out. Somebody would come and get him, take him to another area, not necessarily a special ed classroom, but he would do whatever it is he did not do in that classroom, because we knew that was his max for interacting with those children. And being in that classroom, he would start to get, fidget, and it would cause a distraction, and you have 20 minutes left in the class and the teacher's trying to teach. So we made him leave, and also that helped with at the end of class, because if you put him back in the mix at the end of class, it's going to start a whole new kids walking out the class. Somebody tripped me, that type of thing. So we kind of alleviated all of that. Some days he needed breaks, and I said, look, he has to have breaks. I had to work, but I got a lot of calls, and I'm like, what? I can't just leave work like this. I can't come get him. I can't, and that was a lot of why I went this way, because I couldn't just leave. And I'm like, I'm at next door at the other school teaching. I can't just leave my class like that. So I said, look, we have to do something. If I am to call the school, I ask for a meeting. Okay, I'm going to get to that. But yeah, I couldn't just, I get the calls and this is going on. And I said, we have to do something, because this is a distraction to me. And, I understand there has to be other options. So, we got to this point, and, I'm losing my train because I'm reading the comments, but, he basically, I said he needs to take breaks. He would get up and just leave the classroom anyway. And I said, okay, we need to have a place for him to go to. That's not going to be a distraction, where somebody sees him and he can sit 5-10 minutes every hour. Okay. And so that's what, that's what we did, because if not, it's just a cool down, period, just like a little timeout. We didn't say timeout, but it was a timeout. And whether or not the idea is not to give, take work or anything, because he's ready to, a lot of kids do this, and I'm not, the kids that are not even under IEP go off, because of something the teacher said. And this needs to be something for every child, not just, those under IEP. But unfortunately, a lot of kids take the other route. They, bring in guns and all kind of stuff in school. But anyway, he had a place that he can go when somebody saw him, go to that designated spot. And he would just go in there and take his little time, and a few minutes somebody will come in and just talk to him a few minutes and acknowledge what's going on. And that worked. So he knew that, sorry I'm late, what did I miss? You're going to have to go back. Not a whole lot. I just got into questions, but some front work. So after this is over, go back and just catch the first 32 minutes so that you can kind of understand, because I talked about the whys of why you would need an IEP and what it's really all about and who's going to come into that ARD meeting. So that's something you really don't want to miss. So, but thank you. So yeah, he got his little time, and they acknowledged what was going on, rather than him sitting there in the classroom and things are bothering him, and he's about to explode. And those of us that work, we get in that situation too. Somebody get on your nerves, but then you want to say something and you can't. Imagine a child in that situation, and especially with kids, teasing kids. Kids are cruel. So you just want to alleviate as much of that as you can. So how well would the teachers accommodate? Okay, so you're going to sit there and toss that around. The learning and the behavior needs. Does your child need to sit there during all those classes? Does your child need to learn all those things? Accommodate. Testing is another big thing. Is your child able to sit during testing? Because that's a big thing. You got to have those standardized tests and all that kind of stuff. Does your child need to go to another room with another teacher? And yes, there's a, special education teacher. Mind you, not just special ed license, but can work with that child so that child can have testing. So, you want to make sure that it's okay. That child does not have to sit in that classroom, with all the children just during a test. Second question, are there things I can do to support the IEP goals? Okay. So, like I said, it's just one of the things I was doing was bringing him to school later, picking him up before school was out, so that it would alleviate all of that drama, during that time. That really helped. For every child, that's going to be different. And so with all the people in that room, somebody is going to be able to answer that question. And see, the thing is, when you come in with something like this, they're not even going to, because most people come into their ARD meetings for the first time and they have questions, but they don't know they have questions. But when you come in with something like this, it's like, wait a minute, that parent is aware, that parent knows something. Whether you really fronting because you don't really know, but you got an inside tip. Okay? So it really helps. You look like you are prepared, even though you have no idea what's going on. you know there's a problem. Number 3, have you identified my child's learning styles or style? Will the teachers attempt to use, I'm going to put a blank, strengths because I said his name, while teaching him? And how will his learning style fit the IEP? Couple of questions in one. So is the child auditory? Is the child kinesthetic? Are you just going to sit that child in front of the books like everybody else? Is there something you can do? My child likes the computer. I'm not a computer parent, but are you able to, is that something you're going to be doing with him? That's what I want to know. How frequently is blank's progress monitored? What are the best ways for me to stay in touch with the teachers and to be informed of, I'm trying to read this, of academic and behavior progress? Okay, so you want to, that's important. You want to make sure that they know that you're expecting progress on a regular basis, because a lot of times everybody signed on the dotted line. You walk out that meeting, you don't hear anything till something goes wrong. That should not be the case. I have signed many documents, not signed documents, but one thing I always be sure of, I need to touch base with you come Monday morning, because you were calling me every day. And if I didn't answer, you sending somebody next door to the school to come get me. So, you want to make sure that they know that there has to be some kind of communication, whether it's email, it's a note, it's a phone call, and everybody needs to be in the know on that. It's not something that's just going to be drawn up and forgotten about. And in those communications back and forth, you want to ask, is the child making progress towards their IEP goals? Number 6, if a service is not working, how can I work with the IEP team to explore better services for him? Okay, so all this thing, this whole IEP, this plan is going to be drawn up. Everybody in the room is going to sign off. And see, once you are in that meeting and everybody signs, they're present, everybody agreed to the ARP meeting, they're going to ask you at the end of that meeting, are you comfortable with starting services tomorrow? Yes, because that meeting guarantees your spot into the IEP. Yes, start tomorrow. Even though it takes a little bit, because you may have to throw in occupational therapy, speech therapy. They have to get the referral. They have to get, it takes a little while. It could take a month. It could take 2 months. Because mind you, they're working with a whole district. So they got to get the right people in. And it's a lot of children. So it might take a little time just to get the testing and then see if the child is accepted. But the child will still be under that IEP. The minute everybody signs that last document and walks out the door, tomorrow is a whole new day. If you were getting calls, come pick this child up, this child is suspended, they no longer can do that. That child is protected under law. They have to accommodate that child. So, like I said, this is not something that is bad. It's a good thing. I heard of people saying, your child can't come back here. You can't, come pick your child up, that type of thing. If your child is under an IEP, they cannot deny that child education. And the paperwork, like I said, everybody in the room gets that paper. They're going to send that to you in the mail, but everybody in the room gets a copy of that file. It starts to be a file, and it goes to the district. There's no way they can tell you the paperwork was lost. Because a lot of people are going to be in trouble. Okay, this thing is not just school specific. The help comes from within the whole district. If that school does not have the specialists, or they're too busy, because sometimes they have to go to other schools, they have to find from another school or another district, because a lot of times they work together, somebody that can service that child. But like I said in the beginning, parents' ignorance, if you don't know, they're not going to tell you. They're just going to give you the information that they need to give you and keep it moving. Number 8. What sort of other programs and services and supports might help my child, and how can I get these? Again, they don't tell you things. A lot of time, like behavior. A lot of children that have behavior issues are also unable to commune in regular school sports and things like that, although they cannot deny them, but they might have trouble. Okay? So what somebody said is, are there programs in the community that are able to accommodate that child? So what we were looking at, oh yeah, the local YMCA. We can give your child a membership, your family a membership to the YMCA. They're not going to hand that stuff out. Okay? They're not going to tell you about that. You have to ask. To the local, you have Boys and Girls Club, or where you get a mentor. If your child does not have a mentor, they may offer something like that. You have to ask. My child already had a mentor, so we didn't have to do that. But there are programs in the community for kids just like this that cannot function inside a school. They don't want to leave them out. They want them to be able, the goal is to get them mainstream and learn how to get, function, whether it's communication, especially if it's speech. They want them in the environment, in the mix of other children, so that will improve that. They don't want to exclude them. They're not trying to single them out. What are the promotion criteria for the child, and how would they be evaluated according to the grade level community centers? Yes. So, yeah, you want to make sure that they're being promoted, and how they're, the evaluation process. Now, I talked about probably a few minutes ago about if the service is not working. You go in there come, October. Have your art. January, things are not working. Something is just not, you're getting calls again. Go in, you request a review. Okay, usually you can go to the school social worker, or go to the special education teacher, really whoever's on that team, and request a review. You got to go through the whole process again. Everybody has to be on board. So never mind, I can't, this doesn't work around my work schedule. If it's a big deal, it's a big deal. Usually twice a year, beginning and end, you will have an ARD meeting for this child. And like I said, each new school that child goes into, in district, not in district, in state, out of state, whatever, you need to have an ARD meeting. What's going to happen is when they enter that new school, that ARD is going to follow them. That IEP is going to follow them. All of that information. And until you have a new ARD, that same accommodations. They may say, we can't, we don't have this. Certain things may be understandable because it's a new district. It may be a new state. But for the most part, they have to accommodate the best that they can and get that child, set that new ARD as fast as they can to help that child. Okay? So don't let them tell you that they can't. They can't. There's no such thing as they can't. That again goes back with the parent contact. And if you know you're moving and you've had these weekly communications, because remember I said you need to stay in contact with the teachers, they can 9 times out of 10 already send word to where you're going. And hey, this child is going to be coming in such and such time. What do you have? And they will help you. But if you don't say anything, it's really the parent that is causing a problem, because this is for you, something for you. Okay? Is disciplinary action the primary focus in dealing with the educational development? You know, what kind of discipline are you going to use? The child going to detention? You know, the child have to stay after school? You want to ask those kind of questions. You want to find out their goals, you know, for your child, because you have your goals. You want to find out the team's goals for the child. You want to find out how they're collecting their data to measure the performance on the goals. You know, are they just monitoring, you know, visually monitoring on a daily basis, a weekly basis? Is it something they do special to monitor the progress and make sure that, you know, the child is on track? You want to find out if there's any research-based curriculum or instruction that they'll be using to teach that child. Service log. Can I get a copy of the child's service log? They have to keep logs. The teachers have to keep logs. So again, there's a lot of paperwork. Okay? They can't lose the paperwork. They can't not have it, because every teacher has it. Every teacher has a log. Things that happen, because what would happen is they would call me and say, so-and-so did this, and then I get a story from somebody else, and the story is different, and I'm like, wait a minute. Did this happen? Did it not happen? How did it happen? Why is there 2 different stories? Why is there 3 different stories? I don't understand. I don't want to be rude or, you know, sound unconcerned, but if you can't even document what happened, you know, that's just, it just seems infallible to me. They just don't, well, actually fallible, but you have to take note. If the child is doing something, you need to have something to show for it, because a lot of times you can't think, especially if you're dealing with a whole classroom full of kids, you can't remember every detail. And what I would do, something would happen. It could be 8:30. School just started at 8 o'clock, and I'm like, I haven't even left the building yet, y'all. So, what happened before this incident happened? What were y'all doing? All the kids, where was everybody? Tell me in detail what happened. What happened immediately after the incident happened? And by the time I got it back, when I started doing that, I got less calls. So that told me it was just they didn't want to deal with the child, and it was just, you know, a lot of it was they just didn't want to deal with him. So anyway, you want to ask what, you know, like I said, when the services will take place. So like I say, when you get, your child needs occupational and speech and all of that type of thing. We had a thing where the child is handwriting, and one particular district had these machines, and it's very old, but they happen to have these machines. And they said he could use this, you know, because a lot of things I do with him at home, homeschooling, have to be oral because of the handwriting. We had went as far as bone testing, you know, just to make sure that he was like developed. He wasn't that far off bone age, but there was a little weakness in the hands and stuff like that. So all of that, I had documentation. All of that would go. So I wasn't just saying, well, he can't write very good, don't give him this to write. I could back it up. Medication, I didn't throw that in there, but if your child's on medication, all that has to be disclosed, and they're going to take all that into account. Your child is not unique, but is. So, yeah, you got to have all that on the table. So, yeah, we were saying that some of the things have to be done orally. Some of the things, the long papers or what have you, can be done with this machine. So if the child needs any kind of special, whether it's a special chair or a bouncy ball to sit on or, whatever, all that, they have funding for that. Okay. So you want to ask for all of that. You want to make sure that, you find out when, if you have something, well, okay, I'm going to send this till you get yours, but I need to make sure, when are you going to have this by? It needs to be a reasonable, not, okay, we can get it, and then you have to keep asking, does the child have this? Does the child have this? You may ask, how and why have the accommodations in the IEP been chosen? Okay, because remember, you're going in blind. So they're going to give you ideas and information at first. So why did they choose this? Why do they think this is a good fit? And again, that's where your team, your aunties, your grandmas, your pastors, they're going to come in and say, I don't think this is a good fit. Maybe can we modify this a little bit? Because I've seen this when he's in my presence. Because your child is going to act different with other people. So they can weigh in on that. What percentage, and I kind of went into this already, but what percentage of the day will the child be removed from the general education setting? So again, your child does not even have to go under an IEP and be in a special ed classroom. They can be all general ed, all mainstream. But if the child has to be pulled out, you want to know how much time the child's going to be pulled out, and it has to be consistent. Because, if somebody does not show up to work that day and that's the person that's supposed to go and get that child, what's going to happen to that child? Is that child going to remain in that classroom and then you get a phone call? Or is there enough people on the team? It comes down to that. What methods will be used to help the child cope during a crisis? Very important. Put an asterisk against that one. So like I said, as a child, you're just going to, a child, a lot of times if it is a behavior thing or if it's a speech thing, a child's being taunted and teased, well, what are you going to do to help that child cope? Tell them, ignore them. Tell them, just ignore the kids. That does not really work. And then I had a question that said, what are the benefits of the modified 815-405 school day? Because they went to school, actually, it was actually till 4:30 or 5:30, depending on the day. The special school. But what are the benefits of the modified school day and the negatives? And, I let them know, okay, I feel like this is XYZ, it's beneficial or not. Okay. What strengths or weaknesses have you identified in my child? So, it's a yay or nay thing. Again, your child is going to act different, perform differently at home than at school. So, keep that in mind. Ask them. Especially if you're not one that has gone into your child's classroom extensively and sat and observed. How is the child's IEP unique and beneficial to our family's needs? Okay, how, again, because a lot of these things you do at school, Really, it should start at home. And it's going to, you say, I do this at home. Like I said, this goes back to the parent being completely honest and identifying that child's needs. Are you being completely honest? And, hey, full disclosure. What are you doing with that child at home? Are you already working with that child at home? How is this going to benefit, what they're doing at school? Can you incorporate that at home? Okay. If you're just thinking it's the school's job to help you, it's not the school's job. They have to offer help, but it's not the school's job. It's just like a parent saying, I'm going to, this is the school's job, the teacher's job to teach my child how to read. Do you know how many kindergarten kids that come in there? That is not the teacher's job. A lot of those kids do not know A from Z, but you leave it up to the teacher when you could have taught that child at home. Who has access to the child's IEP? Whom do I primarily communicate with? So like I said, you're going to have, all the communication is going to go through everybody, but you should have a primary person. You should have a primary person for this, a primary person for that, for the special accommodations. You should have a primary. Okay, and I already talked about, can a child be moved to a restrictive setting if needed? So you want to find out if there's a place that the child can go, such and such. Even if it's with another, just outside of the room, in its own special room with the teacher. You want to ask them what the ABC chart is. Antecedent behavior consequence chart. Okay. That's it. That's going to describe the setting, describe what went on, the behaviors, the consequence. It's a weekly report that's usually sent home. Okay, and you have to ask. So it's a lot of stuff to remember. And if you have other children, trust me, with all the kids I have, I had to, people were like, I don't see how you manage this by yourself thus far. Because, and I'm like, I didn't have any choice, and I had to work. But I needed help. And so I had to get help. I didn't deny my child. I knew I needed help. This was bigger than me because I had things to do. Whom can a child go to in the event of crisis? That one is like very, 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 very important. That the child should know right off. And there should be at least 2 people. Because again, that one person may be out that day. Okay. And that person is usually, those people are trained. This is how you react. Just like a child at home. When a child is having a fit. And if you're one to say, well, go to your dad. Because you're going to go off. And the dad can handle the child better. Go to your mom. The child needs to have somewhere that they can go and know, I can go to this person right away for no matter what. Restroom breaks. You want to make sure the child have enough restroom breaks. Water, snacks. If your child, it may be a food thing. Your child may need a snack. Can the child have a snack? It's not just the child finna eat all day long, but sometimes when kids' blood sugar get low, they start whizzing out. So, reflection time, morning areas. So, they may need time to reflect. Peer and social coping skills. So, that's one of the things you want to ask for. So, basically your school social worker will have a time, to talk with your child on a weekly basis, or maybe if they're lucky, 2 times a week, and that that social worker is going to teach them coping skills. So, and I hear a lot of time, oh, I don't want my child to telling all of this and talking to the people, and they have to know all my business. I mean, do you want the people called to your house on speculation and they start making up stuff, or would you rather get help and be willing to work with people? I'm gonna tell you right now, I hear so many stories on here about, oh, CPS this, CPS that. CPS is not bad, y'all. CPS can help you. CPS will help you. They will do some amazing things for you. But if you have that notion in your head, okay, that they're bad and they're out to get you and all of that, when that child is in that therapist's office and that child is talking, it's kind of full disclosure, because that child is going to, that therapist is going to build a rapport with that child. And if that child says something that makes that therapist suspect anything, yeah, they have to report that. Okay? But you want to all be on one accord so that when they do come knocking on the door, they can see for themselves. Sometimes it is the other way around. It's something going on, but I've not had a bad experience at all. Like I said, look, can I call the, that's who's in my phone. You want to, every caseworker we ever had, I have the phone number right here. Like I said, these were not bad cases. It's just something that they have to do. So I'm not, I don't, I've been talking about it for years. It's nothing bad. Nobody's being abused or anything. It just because of him. And that is the reason why I talked about having to prove up on, homeschool documentation and curriculum and things like that. We're in the state of Texas where we don't have to disclose anything, but in this case, I've had to show and share, and they're asking me, what are you using for this? What are you using for that? Let me see this. Let me see that. Fine. I understand all of that. And so kind of to recap, like I said, you want to have a list of questions. Let me go back to here. I said I did not know. I didn't have to ask all of these questions, in one given meeting. A lot of it they went through. But, they were here, and I always grabbed this little, that's why I made it kind of stand out from everything else. So I know, okay, let me grab this thing. And this is what I took with me and kept my notes in and my questions and things like that. So that each time we went to different things. Now, there are different art meetings. What I want to say is, I said a homeschool child is eligible for an IEP. Okay. You have pulled your child out of school because the child was not thriving in a school environment. The child is still under the IEP. They are eligible for all those services that you were getting in the school at home. If you have to bring the child to a particular place, they will offer you that. You have to make sure you ask them. You have to stay on top. It's the same process. You're going to have the same, you're going to have an art in the beginning of the school year, even if they're homeschooled. You're going to show, what you're doing. They may have material for you. Okay. Curriculum for you is what I'm trying to say. Like when we were in California, we dealt with the, the resources. Just a big place. It was about 20 minutes from my house. And to me, it was like homeschool heaven. And it's like, and this child was not under the thing, under the IEP, but the resource center works for everybody. But you go in there basically and get whatever you need. And if you're dealing with a destructive child, that will save you money, because these kids get to tearing up stuff and destroying stuff left and right, which they do in school as well. So you will be able to take advantage of that. The speech therapist will come into the home, especially if you have other children and you say, I'm unable to, do this. I have nobody to watch the children. Stress that as often as you can. They will help you. Do not just think, I have to do this, I have to do it. And I told them, and they understood by the time, they saw the kids, okay, you can't possibly, we're not going to make you do this. Some things, yes, we had to go, too, but they're going to make it as easy as they can, because they realize that if we have to start going places, we're less likely to make those appointments. So let me go back in and read some of these comments. And I don't know who all is still in here, but like I said, you guys can watch. My son had an IEP in California. Sacramento County honored it. San Joaquin County did not. Did we live in San Joaquin? Yep, we did. Yeah, I can't remember. I think we lived in San Joaquin County. We were in Stockton at the time. I moved to Nevada now. No IEP at all. Failed twice, even though we did our best. He had a learning disability. So today, if I am to call the school, I am to ask for a meeting. With who? You just ask for the art meeting. But the IEP is still is there. The IEP is going to follow the child until the child graduates. There's no such thing as it's not there. If they were not utilized, if that child was in school and not receiving services, where were you? Because that it's the child is it 504? Yeah, that's a statute. There's no way the child cannot be accommodated in any way under their IEP. The first person, after contacting your team, like I said, because you have to sign off on all of this. It's not something, it's not a verbal thing. Everything has to be signed on. And the documents go everywhere, so there's no way any kind of document, any of it can get lost. You will go to the principal first if you have a problem. Above that, of course, you go to the district, but it shouldn't be that bad. And like I said, if you're not actively involved, they're not going to help you. They should, but they're going to, do what they have to do, and that's it. They will tell you things, and if you ignore it, that's just like a quiet child in the classroom. The teacher will ignore that child. That child may be gifted and bored. My son got by me continuing to tell his teachers he has a learning disability. The work was too advanced. Next thing was signed for testing. A week later, it was signed here and signed there. They chose his plan. I had no say. No, they don't choose the plan. Again, you have to agree. They're going to ask you, do you agree to everything written in this plan? Okay? Yo, I have signed, I'm the document queen. I have had paperwork and had to sign for a judge. Okay? I'm that one. If it does not word for word fit, I'm not signing it. I say, take this to the judge. Let's go back in there. We need to go in front of the judge. I need to tell the judge why I'm not signing this. I don't care what kind of legal document it is. My name is not going on it. Put Mickey Mouse on it if you want to, but not mine. And I have done that plenty of times. The judge say, ma'am, what is it? Such and such and such. Please modify it right now to say this. I will sign it. I'm not refusing, but there's something that is not right. Fine. And I'm talking about judge in a court of law. Okay? So there's you don't have to sign anything. You could draw that whole plan up and something still be wrong. If you just don't feel comfortable with it, do not sign it. What happened is you will go that same art or same IEP that you're under will hold if they're under one. If not, you're going to have to wait a little bit longer. They're going to put you through an ARD review committee. And then it's going to be less people, but the committee, teachers, probably a principal, and they will hash it out there. But there's no way nobody's not going to agree. And, you don't have a say. You have a say. The thing is for you. It's not something the school does. I was too late. I'm definitely going back. Yeah, I was a special ed teacher. I was just going to say, it's hard to make sure general ed teachers have wanted to do the accommodations. Yeah, when they're little. Yeah, you have to advocate for those kids. Yeah, because there's a lot going on. And if you're not constantly back and forth, in that communication, little kids don't know. They don't understand. But once they get older, and if you have a child that's 18, that child has to be present. You don't even have to be present in art, but they have to be present. But, yeah, you have to stay on top of that. If you don't have any kind of communication, those little kids do not know. You might explain to them as best as you can, okay, this is what we came up with. And every day that child's going to come home and say, well, this happened and this happened. And I had to ask for, well, what did you do at this time? What did you do at this time? Because we had a thing where, there was a time, a schedule. So I knew. And if something didn't sound right, hey, he said this, that, and the other. Did this happen? So it's a lot of communication. It is a lot of work. I'm late too, girls. I'm bad cop, dad, good cop. There are no close resources in my area. You need to outsource that. There are resources. You just don't know about them. I live near Army base, near more military. I live near Army base place here. Near military families. I need to move. Okay, this book lover. Yeah, there are resources. You just don't know about them. Because people take advantage of resources. The stuff is very expensive. So they're not just going to advertise, hey, this is a resource. But again, you as a parent know your child. You know your child is in need. You know your child is, in need of occupational therapy. If they're verbal, nonverbal, you know that early on, especially if you have other children. There's a point where you can say, well, yeah, every child develops differently. One child may walk faster. One child may, crawl faster. One child may walk and not even crawl. I've had that situation. But in the back of your head, something is wrong with that child. Okay. So that is when you need to seek help, not just wait and say, he just, or she just don't want to talk right now. That child should be saying a certain amount of words pretty much early on. Okay. And, the words should be coming out clearly enough for you to understand, maybe one or two words, throughout a sentence. Once they're able to form a sentence, you have to ask them to repeat that, but, they should have certain words pretty clearly, especially the word no. If they can say no very clearly, yeah. Dyslexia. Yes, that's probably one of the hardest because the kids will test in the average range. Yeah, that's a hard one. It takes a while to diagnose those things. It takes a while. But like I said, you have to be persistent. Don't give up because you know that something is wrong. My son's teacher always told me to just keep bringing him. Keep bringing to him. Keep reading. Yeah, you have to read. That's why I always stress reading. Read, read, read. How did I get my little ones to read so early? Because I read to them. I read. They learn how to read on their own. And this last one, I've been trying to show you all, and she was telling me just the other day, I like to help the little kids learn how to read. I thought, oh my goodness. So when she, tell me to get the camera and I'm trying to show you all, that's her doing that. I started with her at diaper changes, reciting the alphabet. About 18 months, I moved to the, the phonetic pronunciation. And I just kept doing that, because in the diaper change, you want the child to be still. So that was just a perfect example, perfect time to do it. And they picked up on that. By the time they were 2, they had all the phonics, so there was nothing else left. When they got 3, can I read this? Okay, let me put the book in front of you and see if you can read it. They got it. They put it all together. And I had to, with these twins, I had to really, because it's twins, you think they're going to be delayed or, and they were preemie. They were like 7 weeks early. But they were perfectly healthy. You would think that it's going to be twice as hard. They picked up on stuff like, I had to tell them that you guys know how to read. They didn't put 2 and 2 together. They knew the letters. They knew the sounds. They did not make that connection that they knew how to read. I had to put the book in front of them and say, read it. And they read it. And they were like, oh, we read a book. We read a sentence. And I'm like, yeah. So, yeah. Dyslexia. But yeah, you want to keep on that, the child's weaknesses, just like you're asking the school, and the team, what are they going to do? You need to help. If that child's weakness is writing, do not have that child at home sitting writing long things. If you're homeschooling, don't do that, because that's the weakness, and that's going to discourage that child. If that child can only write one word, make that child write that one word until that penmanship is beautiful. Okay, don't accept sloppiness, because that's what they're going to produce, and they're capable of more if you just give them the time. 15 minutes, that's it. Whatever they can do in 15 minutes, stop. After that, even if they couldn't even write the whole sentence, stop them. Okay, every day a little bit of work is going to produce progress. 2 days, they might write 2 words, three words, by the second day. They might write the whole sentence. By the end of the week, they may be up to writing 2 sentences, 3, 5, who knows? But if you set it all and say, here, copy this or write this, that seems so overwhelming to a child. They can't produce like that. You have to start, with baby steps. But the first thing is to acknowledge that child needs help. Like I said, you go to that child's pediatrician. If that child's pediatrician is not helping you, go get a second opinion. Some, if you have, and most insurance wants you to get a referral. But there are places that you can go if you have decent insurance. You can, and there's still going to be a wait, but you can go and, outsource yourself. The sooner you start, the better it is. and get whatever kind of therapy that you need, whatever kind of help that you need for that child. If your child is, you suspect the child is having a hearing problem, check it out. Check it out. Do not wait. It's not worth it to wait, because the longer you wait, you're causing major delays. So I noticed a family member, the child at, 3 months old, was not tracking. And I said, this child, something is wrong with this child. Everybody under the sun want to deny it. What do you know? You're just an outsider. I said, okay, well, something wrong with that child. They waited, I said, at least go get the child's hearing tested. It was just a basic screen in the doctor's office. They didn't. I'm like, okay. But, the years passed. We went from 3 months to a year, and still a lot of stuff was just wrong. The child was not talking. Mine was, and they were pretty much around the same age. And it's like, you don't see nothing wrong with that child. When that child they wanted to put the child in school. That is when they found out that, the child has a problem. And he's he's a high autistic. And that's sad, because they waited 4 years to do anything. And I want to say, well, he's highly autistic, but I want to say maybe mid-functioning. And then they had a sibling after, and it was just like, it wasn't that far. Well, you saw that this child was doing this. Why didn't you acknowledge that this child, you can see? And it was just, I don't know why they do this. It's strange, but like, that's not normal. Do you have a problem? So, yeah, and that was kind of the reason I noticed a trend in the boys in the family. So I really paid attention to my own, being that it's a close, relative. But there's no correlation, no kind of diagnosis like that. But we, it's a lot of things that we had to undergo, thus far. Lots of things. IQ tests. A lot of people say, oh, my child was IQ tested. 9 times out of 10, it's not a full battery IQ test. Those things are very expensive. And most of the time, you have to pay for that stuff out of pocket. I remember we did the first one on one of the kids. That was like $700 just for one of the tests. And it's not something you just go do, because who has $700, for one test? So, yeah, you testing to see if the child is gifted or not, or, whatever. But, if you're able to do that, that is really what all this is going to encompass. It's a lot of testing. It's a lot of going places. If you're not one that wants people, I don't like to go to the doctor. I don't like to take my child over here, or let people in my business. Let me tell you something. The minute you walk out your door, people are in your business. Okay? Whether you're taking your child to the doctor or not, people are in your business. People know what you are doing. I'm just not talking about the people, but the government. They know what you're doing in the home. You're tapping on these computers and on these phones. They can see that. Okay? You guys know that every street in this country is being monitored. They protect this country heavily. So there's no, I don't want anybody in my business. What y'all are busy doing is looking this way and this way. Guess what? You know how you're being watched? A lot of people, I know you guys hear these stories about people being homeschoolers per se, being caught. They're being targeted now. Okay, they're being targeted. Truant officers and everything. You don't have to report. A lot of people are undercover homeschooling. And I know it's off topic, but you're here. Because you're too busy looking this way and this way. Drones. Okay, we have law enforcement in the family, so I know for a fact. Drones. That is the #1 way people are being watched, by the drones. You go to the store, you're being followed from the store camera all the way back to your house by drone. Okay? So they know what you're doing. So there's, I can't see somebody saying denying their child because they don't want anybody in their business. I don't understand that. But hopefully this was helpful. If you all have any more questions, share. I think this is one that people, again, need to, it's a lot of information I gave out. They don't have this information. Nobody ever told them. Again, I had some help, years and years and years ago. But a lot of this was on my own. I had to learn. I had to get in there and learn because I didn't know. And I didn't know when I was asking for help that those people actually knew. And they were like, oh, yeah, we do this all the time. And I'm like, oh, well, good. This is going to be great, So don't think of, people, the outsiders, as the bad guy. They're not out to get you, okay? They really want to help you. You need to just accept that you need to help. The child needs to help. That's what you need to accept and let them help you. And know that you have the voice. You really have the floor. You have to be the voice for that child. Advocate for that child. If you don't, who will? And I encourage you to let other people know, family members and things like that, in case something happens. You're going to have a log. If you ever have to call the team member for whatever, just like they're documenting, you need to document who you called and what you called them for, what the response was. Okay? You need to keep paperwork like that. Keep a file. Let somebody in the family know where that file is in case they ever have to take over. There's a record. A lot of paperwork. A lot of paperwork. And that way, if you have to move schools, move states, you have a log of something. Well, I think I had to call so-and-so one time, but I can't remember what they said. That happens to me right here. I can forget. I'm talking to you all and I can forget just that fast. So it's just that important. Trust me, they are writing that stuff down. When they're talking to you on the phone, they're taking notes. So share. If you have any more questions, do not hesitate. If I have to come back in and, do another chat on this, I don't mind. Just ask. All the questions that you need, ask. You never know. If I'm not able to help you, I will point you in the direction that you need to go. But hopefully, this message is beneficial for those that need to hear it. It's not, I'm not trying to bash anybody or anything. Like I say, everybody has to start somewhere. Everybody is ignorant to a point. You just don't know. It's by default. Is there anything else I can say? Do not let anybody else. Don't let anything else you hear influence you by your decision if you come to the point of facing an IEP. Like I said, there are a lot of negative things that you may hear. You need to do some research and find out why you're hearing those things. Other than that, thank you all. Make sure I got all of these comments. Yeah, I got them all. So, yeah, I think I pretty much covered everything. I think really well. Yeah, like I said, if you, questions, whatever, go back and rewatch the video and catch the questions, write them down, keep them, do some research. I said, if you need any more help, I'll be here. Other than that, I have to get in here and get these kids. They're going to be up soon. So Enjoy your homeschool day or your day off. Enjoy your free time, and I will see you all in the next chat. And hopefully you all are keeping up with the vlogs.